Prior to coming to Alberta, to Canada, I had no idea where Alberta was. I knew only the principal cities in Canada. I knew of Vancouver, I knew of Halifax, I knew of Toronto, I knew of Montreal. That's it. Nothing in Alberta or Saskatchewan. When we used to talk about Saskatchewan, just like here, you guys talk about Timbuktu. When I was employed by the local, I think there was a conference that I went to. And when I went to the conference, I was struck with the number of participants, the members who were there. There was quite a bit of members there, in their hundreds. So I was like, okay, this is good. But then immediately, because of who I am and, what I've always been interested in, I started looking for people who look like me, people who were different. And I could just count people who look like me. So when we came back, my director called me and asked me, how was your experience? I said it was good, but at the same time, this is what I was looking for. Because looking at a retail local like that, I was thinking I will have a lot of people of diverse color or race and religion present there, but instead I could just count, and I kept looking at it almost every single day that I was there. And that really bothered me. So that was where I started thinking. I said, perhaps we should start something here, the Diversity Committee. And so I told her of my vision of the Diversity Committee. He said, just put something on paper for me to see, because everything we do here, every initiative has to go through the e-board and stuff like that. So I did that. And the Executive Council, comprising of the President, the Secretary, Treasurer, and the directors, they approve of it, in principle. But then I had to do my own presentation before the Executive Board, which I did, and then it took off. When an immigrant family comes in to the city or any community, I don't have any stats or math to guide what I'm saying, but from my own experience, it takes them close to about 6 years to get used to the system here. And by the time the 6 years come up, their kids are also growing up to some level that they need the family's attention or the parents' attention. So the attention is also there. So at times people think, the immigrants are just not interested in the labor movement. Understand them from that perspective, that it takes them about a dozen years for them to get things around them complete. If you are lucky, 10, before they can devote their time to do this. So when I talk to them and they say, Sam, I cannot do this because of this and this, my mind goes there immediately. I understand, so I don't push. Just, work with them. Don't ignore them. Work with them. Let them know that you are still there. And that when they are ready, they can always come. We did it through the educational system, because we have the education and communication department. So it went onto our websites, and then we created some posters that we sent to all the stores. So you read it, and then you have a Martin Luther King's picture there and the saying. And then we have Annabella, Supreme Court Justice in Canada. That's one lady that I quote constantly because she's into diversity and stuff like that. So, and then we invited people, so there's a portion that you write your name and then you become a member. So that is the recruiting process there. And then when it came to this superstore where I'm doing this pilot project, for example, when we had that conversation, I said, this is what I know. And because it's a start, we would put the names out there, but let us also target 1 or 2 individuals that we know could be very influential in this. So I purposely hand-picked 2 people who I know could do this. One is a Filipino, and then one of them was an East African, but he's an hijab-wearing East African. And that was, the manager said, this is an unusual pick because this lady doesn't talk. I said, I know. She doesn't talk, she doesn't communicate with anybody, but I said, when I meet her at the lunchroom, guess who opens up to me? She. I want to use that. When we had our first meeting and I asked people of the understanding of diversity and stuff, inclusion and equity. You could just see that they understood diversity, but more of the traditional understanding of diversity, where you talk about race, and then you talk about gender, like female, male, and then you talk about religion. But I won't say they couldn't go deeper, but they didn't go deeper than that, because even there, we had a whole range of people there. The ages were from late 20s to mid 50s, but they couldn't talk about age as part of the diverse population, which I stressed on. And they couldn't talk about disability, physical disability. It didn't come up there. And then I also said, you may also talk about perspective that we bring to the table, because that is diversity. So when we sit at the table and we talk, even here among us as 11 or 12 people, we come out with various, ideas about a particular subject. That is diversity. So then at that point, it was beginning to sink in. Then you could see all the ideas and the suggestions flowing all over the place, which means they knew it, but it was sitting somewhere. Somebody had to prompt them to come in. Because diversity committee, regardless of how we call it, is actually member engagement. This is why the diversity committee comes in, the idea of empowerment and the idea of enabling. It is, it saddens me when their work is, some of them work out of fear. Okay, if I voice my opinion on this, I could lose my job and my family may not have the income. Meanwhile, they are suffering in secret. And that is the part that I take upon myself and said, you have a voice. And I introduced them. I said, in human rights of Alberta, you make a comment or you make a complaint and they come after you, that's a retaliation. And I could file a grievance on that. And we go with that. And so you encourage them to open up. At times they wouldn't even talk. Like, I have quite a few meetings in Tim Hortons around the city. At times, I'll invite them to bring their spouses so that we talk, and then they know that, okay, this is the person who has been calling the house, and this is the role of the person. So when you are dealing with women, you have to let the men know, because, they have to be secure, because it's a little bit unusual for some of the cultures for the woman to receive calls from a man that the husband doesn't know. And some of them, I'll actually go to the house and sit down with them and talk, and then encourage them, this is your right. It's challenging in terms of the committee. We have a few members, but when it comes to meetings, it's challenging, because we can agree to meet on this day, but then there will be a shift coming. So they will take the shift because, they will have to get something. They have to earn something. And so they will call and say, okay, we cannot come because I accepted the 11th-hour shift. Then we also have to look at the transportation piece. Can they drive, or do they drive to some of these meetings that we have? So at times when we do some things, I purposely will promote them more when I know that perhaps the local will provide free transportation. And that has been very, very successful. The plan, we have 9 members now. The plan is that in June, the 9 members will be replaced with another 9 members. So the current 9 members, the term I use is that they are going to form the Council of Elders. So they'll be the go-to people for the newer 9. So we do that every year. In 4 years' time, we will have 36 active members graduating through the Diversity Committee, and it spreads. Well, like I said, this is member engagement. And in a way, too, you are also identifying, or you are also trying to recruit member leaders. You don't have to be a shop steward to be a leader. You can be anybody who anybody can approach. Because we have some, and I can say in 5049, I had a baker there who had, East Indian lady, who had no formal education, But I could see that that is where the rest of the staff in the bakery unit will go to when they have issues. They will go to her, not the department manager, and then she will come in and present to me. And I said, okay, you are doing some work there, but I will want you to step it up. How about becoming a shop steward? I said, but Sam, I don't have education. I can't write. I said, just go, train, know more about the union. When you come to me, tell me what it is I'll write. You don't have to write me a statement. So she took it on, and she's still a steward. You know, so the members will actually identify their own leaders there, because that is where you see them gravitating towards. And those I will encourage and empower, so they will become member leaders. Some of them I will tap to become shop stewards. So as part of the member engagement, like when I go to my stores and I'm trying to recruit people to become shop stewards, for example, and I look for some of the minorities too, because half of the time they don't have a voice, or they have a voice but they don't want to raise it. They don't want to talk until somebody pushes them. You know, my whole goal is to create awareness and to enable people also to challenge themselves and to challenge management or employers, and then encourage each other to stand up for themselves. Because that is what the union is about, solidarity. It's a family. But what I wanted to do is to draw their minds off the traditional notion of health and safety, meaning injuries. Because for them, occupational health and safety, this is a hazard, this is injury, this is this, this is this. And I said, okay. I said, have you thought about this whole idea? Because you talk to me about bullying. You talk to me about harassment. What does it create? That is when they started getting it. I said, that is a mental health issue, emotional health issue. Some of them, emotional abuse. So if something comes up like that and I have the evidence and I'm filing a grievance, I'm tackling it not only from the point of bullying or harassment, but also as an health and safety issue, because it is leading there. You don't have to strike me with a cutlass for me to know that, okay, I'm hurt and this is a health issue. But if I'm constantly being harassed and bullied, that is even worse, because the damage that will come on me cannot be, just taped with a bandage or something and done. It is something that is going to be with me for months and years, and it's going to affect my family at home. So just look at it from that lens. I have dreams for this diversity thing. Because, I think I dream diversity every night, or I smell diversity every night, not just because of who I am, but because if we are a local, a labor movement, and member engagement is not at the heart of everything we do, we lose.